Throughout NBA history, we've witnessed a plethora of great players step foot in the league, but having a quick look at the best of the best, there's almost nobody at the top quite like Stephen Curry. With his remarkable play style centered around the shooting and playmaking skill sets, he's been able to bring the Golden State Warriors multiple championships throughout his career. But in today's video, we're going to change things up a bit and make the 6'2" point guard even better by giving him a 99 driving dunk. At the beginning of the NBA season, Curry's sitting at the bright age of 35 years old, which of course means there's not a whole lot of time to bring another title to the Bay Area, but that doesn't mean it'll be impossible, especially since he now has the added athleticism to put anyone on a poster. Also, yes, if you were wondering about his badges, I made sure I gave him plenty to work with so he could dunk on people as much as he wants to. I also made sure I gave him some unique dunk packages, those including Ja Morant, Vince Carter, Julius Erving, and of course, the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan. Now, because that may or may not be enough to get him to use his newly added finishing abilities, I made sure I changed his tendencies a little bit so he'd be able to do it more often. And yeah, as you can see here, his standing dunk tendency is sitting at 90, driving dunk is at 99, flashy dunk at 65, and his alley-oop is at 90. But hey, you know what? Since we are on season number 1, I feel like it's only relevant for us to hop into the very first game of the regular season. And of course, as you can see, we're going to be facing off against his former teammate Kevin Durant. Alright, at the tip, who's going to win the jump ball? Will it be Draymond Green or Jusuf Nurkic? Of course it wasn't Draymond. Okay, Golden State finally has the ball. Now, I want to see what Curry's working with. Can someone set him up with the screen so he could drive to the basket? There he is going down the lane, and he puts up a layup. Are you serious? All right, actually, you know what? Since this game doesn't count, let me just actually hop in and use Steph myself. All right, yeah, give me this ball. Draymond, I'm gonna need a fat screen from you. Okay, never mind. Jonathan Kuminga's here. Oh, I got KD down the lane. Here we go, and boom, that's a body. Yep, he just got put on ESPN. Okay, and after fast forwarding to the All-Star break, let's go ahead and stop and have a look at his numbers. As you can see, he's currently averaging 28.9 points per game, 4 rebounds and 4 assists, while also nearly averaging 1 steal and 0.3 blocks. Now, as far as those numbers are concerned, everything seems pretty normal, but if you have a quick look at his percentage from the field, you'll see that it's sitting at an absurdly high level at 57%. Now, just to put things into perspective, if you have a look at someone like Joel Embiid, this was the year that he won MVP and he only shot 55% from the field. Don't get me wrong, that's like obviously MVP caliber, but one thing to keep in mind is that he's 7 feet tall. Giannis, if we have a look at his stats last season, he shot 55%. A guy like DeMar usually shoots like 49, 50, which, I mean, that makes sense. So for Steph to be sitting here as one of the shortest guys in the league, dunking on everyone, kind of like Ja Morant here, to also be the greatest shooter of all time, I mean, that's like the greatest combo ever, right? I mean, he has to be the GOAT at this point. And out of curiosity, it looks like he's not in the top 5 list for MVP, which, I mean, that kind of makes sense because he's not averaging a 34-point triple-double like Luka and Jokic. But as far as the playoff picture is concerned, the Golden State Warriors have really nothing to worry about as they are in 4th place with 32 wins and 22 losses. And at the end of year number 1, we have Luka Doncic with his very first MVP. That, well, there's no surprise there. The same thing could be said for Victor Wembanyama, who just won Rookie of the Year. And I don't see any awards. Actually, never mind. I do see an award for the Golden State Warriors because, as you can see, Stephen Curry is the clutch player of the year. Now, don't get me wrong. This isn't really anything like the MVP or DPOY, but it is good to know that the Warriors are in safe hands with a guy like Steph. And as you can see, those shooting splits that I mentioned earlier only got better as he shot nearly 58% from the field. Actually, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really remember what the stats were earlier, but I'm pretty sure they got a little bit better. Now, with a performance like that, it would only make sense for Steph to be a part of an All-NBA team, but as you can see, he is nowhere to be found. We have guys at the bottom like LaMelo Ball, who averaged 23 points on 43% shooting, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that LaMelo didn't even make the playoffs, so I wonder if Steph just got hurt. I could have sworn I turned off injuries. You know what? I don't really understand it, but in our very first playoff matchup, we are going to be facing off against the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, I can't tell you how many times I brought up the fact that I was a Clippers fan, which you already know we're going to win the title this year, but I can't lie. I am absolutely terrified for Golden State because if you have a quick look at the starting 5, it kind of seems like the Warriors might be a little bit underprepared for the squad. But you know what? You can't go into these matchups with a lot of fear. So I'm pretty confident that we'll pull out with a win here. And we ended up winning by, I think, 7 points. Kawhi Leonard had 20 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Steph dropped 44 and 8. And this was a very narrow win for the Golden State Warriors. And I just saw that Al Horford is on the team. But anyway, on to game number 2. Will the Golden State Warriors stay up front? So far, it's looking like the Warriors are going to win game number 2. And at this point, it's not looking very good for Los Angeles, but they do seem to pull out with the win here. Klay Thompson led our team in scoring with 22 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists. Kawhi Leonard tore us up with 31, 8, and 5. And by this point, we could only hope to go up 3-1. We do not want to have this series tied whatsoever, but it's looking like that's going to be the case. Klay Thompson yet again with another terrific night. Meanwhile, Stephen Curry only had 26 points. But I believe the Golden State Warriors do have the home court advantage, and it's looking like they're actually getting blown out in their own turf. That is absolutely not a good sign for the Warriors, and it looks like we might get decimated from the league after this, because we just blew a 2-series lead and the Clippers somehow managed to win 4 straight. Curry only had 22, 4, and 9, which, don't get me wrong, those are good numbers, but when you have the dunking ability of prime Vince Carter and Michael Jordan, and you're also the greatest shooter of all time, you might as well just go ahead and save everyone the trouble and drop like 70. And yeah, it seems like there was absolutely no stopping the Terminator himself, Kawhi Leonard, who had 34, 7, and 5. That's kind of unfortunate, but you know what? Let me go ahead and simulate throughout the rest of the playoffs. And at the end of the NBA season, it looks like the Denver Nuggets are your NBA champions. Now, I believe if the team goes out of their way to make some decent trades, we will be back in playoff contention and hopefully make an NBA Finals in the future. But okay, season number 2 is underway, and they did not make any trades whatsoever. Stephen Curry, who is now 36, is sitting at a 97 overall. And if you've been a fan of the NBA for some time now, you're probably aware of the fact that this may or may not be one of his final seasons in the league. Normally, we only see athletic machines such as LeBron James actually stay a part of the league until they're nearly 40 years old. So it's not looking very good for Stephen Curry's Golden State Warriors, especially since they didn't make any trades at all. I mean, like, you kind of have to if Curry's still sitting in his prime and only has a couple of years left. And hey, you know what? It's kind of looking like the game somehow heard my voice and decided to make some deals, because if we have a quick look at the roster, you'll see Jeremy Grant and John Collins are a part of the starting 5. Now, I'm hoping that this is enough utility for Stephen Curry to utilize. That way he can have yet another dominant playoff run and hopefully bring home another NBA championship. But hey, we're just going to have to see. And so far, it doesn't look like the Warriors won any awards this season. And okay, did Steph finally make another All-NBA team? Let's have a quick look, and it doesn't look like it. He averaged nearly 28 points per game, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and yet again shot 50, 40, 90. So I mean, to be honest, I'm really kind of confused just to how this man is not making All-NBA teams. And for our very first matchup of the postseason, we are facing off against the 7th-seeded Minnesota Timberwolves. With 51 wins and 31 losses, the Golden State Warriors managed to pull away with the 2nd seed in the West. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that we might end up sweeping this group. But of course, since this is a 2K simulation, nothing's impossible, and we might just have the rug swept under our feet this series. And all right, in game number 1, who's it going to go to? My money's definitely on Golden State. If you were to say the Minnesota Timberwolves, I wouldn't really be mad, just because this game is so random at times. But it looks like the Warriors pulled away 129-103. Steph had 36, 2, and 5 with 11 and 16 shooting. And in the second game of the series, hopefully we have the same exact result as the first one, and it's looking kind of like it, as they pulled away, winning by only 5 points. This time around, John Collins actually dropped 29 and 8. I'm assuming Steph was setting him up most of the game. He actually had a poor shooting night. He attempted 8 threes and only made 1 of them. So I mean, that's kind of unfortunate, but that's definitely not going to happen again. And as they head for the sweep, the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to win 153-147. This was a really high scoring game. Stephen Curry had 44 points on 16 for 24 shooting. Anthony Edwards had a masterclass of a performance with 53, 5, and 9. Those are insane numbers to pull up in a playoff game, even if it is the first round. But all right, on to game number 4. We were kind of in this position last year against the Clippers, so hopefully the same thing doesn't happen to us, but it doesn't look like it's going to, as the Golden State Warriors win by 30 points. All right, this could be the nail in the coffin, and it looks like it's going to be, as we won by only 6 points. Stephen Curry had 30 points in only 19 minutes of play. Hopefully that doesn't mean he got injured, which, I mean, I'm pretty sure I turned off injuries, but I kind of forgot. And in the second round of the playoffs, it unfortunately looks like we're going to be facing off against the MVP of the league, Luka Doncic. I gotta be honest with you guys, I'm kind of scared to play Luka sometimes because we all know how insane he is in 2K. The Mavericks ended up winning game number 1, and well, I mean, I told you guys I was afraid, and I had every right to be, as Luka had 47, 13, and 7 assists, and it wasn't just him leading the charge in scoring, as Kyrie had 33, 6, and 7 as well. This group is definitely something to be afraid of, but hopefully we can come back in game number 2, and after having a quick look at the scoreboard, it's definitely not looking like it. Curry had 27, 5, and 7, but to be honest, the stats don't even really matter. We need to win this game right here, right now, and it looks like the Dallas Mavericks might have Golden State figured out, as they proceeded to win by nearly 50 points in a playoff game. If you're not looking at your screen, just know that Luka had like probably the greatest playoff performance of all time. And to be honest, as a spectator, I'm a little embarrassed to even read off those numbers because we got absolutely obliterated. Now, hopefully this Warriors team can come back better than what LeBron did a part of Cleveland in 2016. We are up by only 4 points with a couple seconds left to go. And you know what? I'm just going to jump in out of pure curiosity to see how things are going. All right, we are in Dallas and the Mavericks do have possession. It looks like they have Chris Paul in at the point guard position. Steph is guarding Kyrie Irving, who puts up the shot and misses. And it looks like the Golden State Warriors are actually going to pull out with their very first win in the second round. But hey, that was a really good win for the Warriors. Steph had 39, 4, and 10. Meanwhile, on the other hand, it looks like Kyrie Irving had 49 points, 4 rebounds, and 9 assists. And of course, Luka played at such an extremely high level that there's really nobody else doing it like him. Now, as far as life perspectives are concerned, I am always a glass half full kind of guy, but it's not looking very good for Golden State. And as you can see, the Warriors have just been eliminated from playoff contention. Also, for whatever reason, the Detroit Pistons just won an NBA championship. So that's kind of weird. And slowly but surely, it's starting to look like Stephen Curry is regressing a little bit, sitting at a 96 overall, which is still elite, especially at this age. And also, for everybody wondering about his dunking ability, don't worry, he hasn't regressed in that field at all. And hey, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it appears as though the Golden State Warriors downfall is officially underway, as they're sitting 26 and 30 at the All-Star break. Now, by this point, it doesn't really seem like our chances of making the playoffs are that great, but there is definitely a chance of us making the play-in tournament, which may or may not lead to us having a playoff spot. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot to mention, if you made it this far in the video, you should definitely consider leaving me a like, since it does support the channel. Now, just so I don't spoil what our record looks like, let's have a quick look at the award list, and it appears as though Stephen Curry pulled away with yet another clutch player of the year. Now, if we look at some of his stats, these are like absolutely insane. He averaged nearly 32 points a game while also throwing away 7 dimes on 57, 43, and 90% shooting. You know what? Maybe he's here on All-NBA second team, and it looks Finally, after all this time, he actually made an All-NBA team. Luckily, the Golden State Warriors managed to win enough games to dodge the play-in tournament, and we are now officially playing the Utah Jazz as the 6th seed. And if we have a quick look at the Jazz's roster, first things first, I have no idea who this guy is. He's just an auto-generated player that just so happened to end up being good. But they do have other guys such as Keontae George, Desmond Bane, RJ Barrett, and Taylor Hendricks. I definitely don't think that we're strong enough to take down this team, but we may or may not pull away with an upset here. And yeah, it looks like Utah actually ended up pulling away. But in game number 2, hopefully we come back. And also, I'm going to make sure I jump in so we could see him potentially dunk at some point. But we're definitely not going to see it this game, because Golden State ended up winning by nearly 20 points. Curry had 39 and 18. And how about game number 3? Is it going to be super close? It's an 8-point game. Now we're down by... yeah, okay, we ended up losing that game as well. On to game number 4. Hopefully we could tie the series at 2-2. There's 40 seconds left and Utah's up by only a couple of points. And the Golden State Warriors are now in possession of the basketball. Here comes a screen from Jonathan Kuminga, who's wide open under the basket and puts in a dunk. But you know what? Now we look to the Warriors defense. Can they actually stop this team from scoring? So far, it's looking like it. Keontae George is in isolation. He passes it away to Taylor Hendricks. Now we have Colin Sexton, a part of this team, and Keontae George was kind of wide open for 3, but there's Marco Forts. What did I just say? Looks like Curry's getting another screen from Kuminga, and he puts up the 3, and that shot's no good. Here gets a rebound from Trace Jackson Davis, and he puts it back in. Oh my god, we are only up by 2 points with 0.2 of a second remaining. Bro, that would have been insane if he would have drove to the basket instead of taking a 3, because not only would he have bodied somebody, but we definitely would have won the game as well. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Utah doesn't have enough time to get off a shot, but if there's anybody that could prove me wrong, it would be Luka, and he's not here. But Keontae George did make the three, and there was just not enough time to get the shot off. On to matchup number 5. It looks like Golden State's going to pull out with yet another win. And as far as the scoring numbers are concerned, there's not really anything that crazy to go over, but we are officially inside of an elimination game. Now, we definitely don't want this series going to 7 because we want to get to the NBA Finals as quickly as possible. And there you have it. The Golden State Warriors win game number 6 by 11 points. And well, unfortunately for us, we got to face off against this team again. But this time around, instead of having Kyrie Irving by his side, he now has Jamal Murray. But all right, who's going to win game number 1? So far, it's looking like it's not going to be the Dallas Mavericks. And yeah, Steph had 35, 3, and 7. Now on to game number 2. It looks like the Golden State Warriors are down by 3 with 56 seconds remaining. You guys already know we have no other choice but to hop in and spectate this matchup. They did pass it off into the post. You've got to be kidding me. But anyway, Gary Trent Jr. ended up missing a 3. Curry passes it off. Trace Jackson Davis has the ball. He's getting double teamed. Here goes a 3 from Kuminga, and that is good as well. Oh my, that shot officially tied the game. Luka Doncic pulls up with the oh my goodness. I can't even talk. I can't even commentate anymore. This dude's insane. And here's Steph with the basketball yet again. Here comes the screen from Trace Jackson Davis, and he pulls up with a mid-range shot, and of course that's good as well. All right, now we did end up fouling Luka Doncic. Now, as you guys know, this guy's very clutch in these playoff moments. But let's see how clutch he is at the free throw line. It looks like the very first shot is good. All right, now how about the second one? Yep, okay, that was nothing but net. Golden State is down by 3 points with 10 seconds remaining. Now, I believe that they can get a 3-point shot off, but they gave it off to Kuminga, who misses, and Dallas gets the rebound in. Oh, man, yeah. It's over. And on to game number 3, the Warriors ended up winning by nearly 60 points. Stephen Curry had a spectacular performance, putting up 45, 2, and 8. It appears as though Luka was the only one on Dallas that really cared about winning, and hopefully his team can keep up that same mentality as we're looking to win one last NBA championship. But game number 4 is pretty close, and it looks like Dallas ended up pulling away with it, winning by 16. I don't think there's anybody on this planet that's fully capable of stopping Luka Doncic, as he put up 59 points, 8 rebounds, and 12 assists. If I'm going to be totally honest, there's nothing we can do. We just got to live with it. But anyway, I'm pretty optimistic that we can pull away with another W here. And it looks like the Dallas Mavericks came out of nowhere and stole this game from us. I don't even know what just happened. How did we just lose that? And yeah, there you have it. The Golden State Warriors have officially been eliminated. I mean, dude, Steph only had 15 points in an elimination game. But anyway, it looks like the Dallas Mavericks did win an NBA championship. But luckily for us, before the trade deadline last season, Stephen Curry actually agreed to a contract extension that would put him a part of the roster for another 2 seasons. But hey, we just passed the All-Star break, and if you have a quick look at the record, things are not looking good for us. And if I'm going to be completely honest, there's definitely a chance that we don't even make the play-in tournament at this rate. All-NBA first team does not have Steph a part of it. How about the second one? It doesn't appear as though, but on the bright side, he did make the third one, averaging 29 points a game. But even with his terrific individual performances, it wasn't enough to carry the team to the play-in tournament, as they only won 37 games. To be honest, if I was Steph at this point, I'd probably just retire even if I was on contract, because it doesn't really look like the GM wants to make any sort of trades. But as you can see, in what I would assume to be his final season in the NBA, Stephen Curry is currently sitting at a 93 overall with 1 year left on his contract, and I am not confident in this roster whatsoever to make the playoffs. So unless some deals get made, I think it's safe to say that he's not even going to finish his career in the postseason. And having a look at the play-in tournament, his very last season in the league was in vain, as they didn't even make the playoffs. But you know what, let me go ahead and simulate and see if he does decide to retire. More than likely he will, but OKC did just win an NBA championship, and there you have it. Third on the list, we have Stephen Curry, a part of the Golden State Warriors. I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of weird how he just became the greatest scoring threat out of everybody in the league, but for whatever reason, it didn't really amount to anything other than his numbers being absolutely insane. I'm sure if I personally made some trades, it would have made a huge difference, and they probably would have won a couple of rings. And at the end of his NBA career, Stephen Curry sits with 33,492 points. That puts him ahead of guys like Michael Jordan, Dirk Nowitzki, and Wilt Chamberlain, while also just being behind Kevin Durant and Kobe Bryant. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to go check out my most recent upload where we traded every 2024 All-Star to their former team. You definitely want to go check that one out if you made it all the way through this one, and I will see you guys in the next episode. I'm out.